the amazing Women Speak podcast, inspiring and motivating every Black woman to own, honor, and execute her amazing, individually and collectively, as it was established at birth.
Good evening, good evening. I'm Crystal L. Gunn, and welcome to another episode of Amazing Women Speak. Thank you for joining us. We were having a little technical difficulties to start, so we literally had to start all over. But while you are getting settled in for the show, hit the share button and share Amazing Women Speak so your friends and followers can get in on this conversation. And so Amazing Women Speak is sponsored by the Amazing Woman Network, which was created to unite and empower Black women globally, focusing on our core pillars of reclaiming and owning our personal power, mind, body, and spirit, reclaiming and owning our financial power, and increasing our social involvement. You can view us on the web at Amazing Woman, WOMAN, network.com. So boundaries. Boundaries can be hard to set sometimes, but they aren't just rules. They're powerful expressions of self-respect and care. And setting healthy limits isn't about pushing people away. It's about nurturing deeper, more authentic connections. When you define your boundaries, you protect your energy, you foster mutual respect, and gain richer, more meaningful interactions in your life. So however you are tuning in with us this evening, thank you for joining us. And be sure to get in on this conversation in the comments. We would love to lift you up as part of this conference. We definitely want to hear from you as we talk about the beauty of boundaries, healthy limits, and stronger connections. Michele is again traveling, and so we offer up prayers of traveling mercy for her, so she will not be joining us today. So let's bring in our first guest. Kelly, come on in and introduce yourself, please.
Hi, Crystal. So good to see you, and thank you for having me on the show tonight. Hi, everyone. My name is Kelly Jackson. I am currently a senior manager at Harper International. I am a proud product of Detroit Public Schools, a Cass Tech alumni, CT.
Go green, go white. Yep.
I studied my undergraduate, completed that at Kettering University. I have a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering. When I'm not at work, I am usually shuttling kids around to gymnastics or volleyball or basketball, but it's not the worst thing in the world because then I can get some reading done because I love reading and I love doing jigsaw puzzles.
Oh, cool. Okay. We needed you a couple weeks ago with the jigsaw puzzle. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Miss Kim, come on in and reintroduce yourself because you've definitely been here before. So thank you for joining us again.
Thank you. Yes, I've been here before. I am also a fan of all you amazing women and those watching. I have an interesting journey as well, product of Detroit Public Schools as well, Cass Tech. Right. Went to Michigan State University, so I got to represent that green and white also.
Same, yes.
And I did my undergraduate, Kelly, in psychology and employee relations.
Okay.
And at this point and phase in my life, which I won't go into detail, but we're all around the same age, so it's no secret here, but not maybe Kelly, but Crystal and I. She's like, don't be bringing me into your stuff.
Right. Look, I always joke. I'm like, emotionally, I am a lot older than what I am. I got a husband, kids, a mortgage. So I think that emotionally ages you. So we're all the same age here.
I know. And, but I'm going back to school to get my master's in counseling. That's actually what I am doing right now. Christian counseling, but counseling overall and integrating people's faith in the process as well. So I'm going to Spring Arbor University online. I live in California now, though.
Oh, okay.
By way of Detroit to New York for 5 years and now California. So if you can make it in Detroit and New York, you can make it anywhere.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I founded a business, The Greater Advantage. I was corporate America 100% at one point, and I realized that the best tools, the best services, the best coaching. It was all sort of locked up in this ivory tower and really at the top often. I was fortunate enough, though, to roll it out to 50 salaried employees in the automotive industry. And I saw the power of it touching every person. And so the name of my business is The Greater Advantage, because I believe everyone deserves a greater advantage. Because it's Sunday, I will say, I also say, when you add your spirituality, your faith, your beliefs in it, your purpose, you can really have the greatest advantage.
I love that. I love that. Yeah. So how far away were you from
from
the fires and all of that was happening?
Oh, girl, in all actuality, I was 2 towns away, like Oak Park, Southfield, and being in Farmington, let's say. Okay. But in my mind, when they named my city on the TV, it might as well have been in my back door. They were like, get ready to evacuate. My daughter and I hopped in the car. We went to Palm Springs, ended up in Arizona. We was running away from fires like they were chasing. So I am totally post-traumatic fire syndrome. Yeah.
I'm sure that had to be. Well, we are glad that it did not negatively impact your town. And obviously. Yeah.
And 2 dogs. Me, my daughter, and 2 dogs in the car.
Yeah. Yes. I'm glad everyone is safe. I can't even imagine. So
right. Yeah. So let's get to it. Kelly. Mm-hmm. When did you realize that you needed to start setting boundaries, and what was not having boundaries costing you?
Ooh, I would say this is definitely a lesson that I learned later in life, and probably am still learning. And primarily, I've always been good about boundaries in my work life, but in my personal life, I think I was a bit more accommodating and doing a lot of sacrificing. Like, oh, if your friends want you to come somewhere, you don't work all week, you've been with the kids, you know you don't want to go, but you also don't want to disappoint your friends. So I would say, if I'm being 100% honest, probably like my mid-30s, I started, just when I became more confident and sure of myself, I was like, you know what? It is okay to say no. It is a complete sentence. But what I found is that my friends were feeling the same way. And so I think once I had the courage to kind of step out there and just be like, look, it's been a week. I know we made plans, but I need a timeout. And they like, you know what? That's actually a good idea. And I'm like, oh, okay. So like you said, boundaries are not necessarily a bad thing.
They are not. Kim, how about you?
You know what? And it's so the opposite. I love how you know who to put together, Crystal. It's like I've always been able to have it in my personal life. And as a executive coach and life coach, I mean, I get it so much, right? However, because I don't feel the guilt, I'll say no, crawl up in the bed, get my relaxation, all that. But you know what? I'm going to say TMI about us in Detroit. I've always also been able to tell any leader, any CEO, anybody, you know, this is how you treat me. Do not treat me that way. I've pulled them in the office and told them, you know, don't trigger me. You know, I grew up in my daddy was throwing hitting refrigerator. And like, don't do that to me because I don't want to catch a case. The one time I didn't, boundaries were crossed, and I literally had an emotional, mental breakdown, lost hair. That's why I got a buzz cut now. I'm growing it back in. It was a lot. And so the one time that I didn't draw the line in the sand on how to treat me with respect and dignity to a CEO, the boundaries were crossed and it just spiraled. And that's the moment that I realized, you know what, I see what it feels like now to not have those boundaries.
So let's talk about both sides of those fences. And we're going to talk about the corporate side first, since Kelly is definitely in that corporate world. Kim, start off with the importance, because you do corporate coaching and training and things of that nature. How does someone, let's look at it from both sides. I'm new to this company and or position with this supervisor, as well as I've been here for a while, right? How do I go about setting those boundaries?
And, you know, it can come in so many different ways, because you know how people say millennials or those of the younger than us will know how to say, I want my 2 weeks of vacation. You know, I want to work from home. I want to do hybrid and all that. So I'm not so much into that. I think it starts with being mindful. Like, you know, when something doesn't feel right, something doesn't sit with you right, and you have that uncomfortable feeling. And I'm going to leap all the way to physical boundaries. This is not what happened to me by any means. But I remember back early in my career, before corporate, I worked like for vocational schools and things like that. And I remember I had a director who started asking me like, what size shoe do you wear? What size pants do you wear? What size bra do you wear? You know, way back, I was 27 years old, right? And I'm juxtaposing the two because I remember not speaking up for myself, always thinking I would, and I, you know, just sort of sat there and left, but I felt uncomfortable. So by no means am I saying it's the same, but it's that same type of uncomfortable feeling when someone comes too close to you. You have that same feeling like I'm working too many hours and they're asking too much of me. You know, I can't speak up. Whenever I get ready to say my idea, someone shuts me down and makes me feel stupid about it. Or, you know, there's this clique over here I can't get in and I'm not part of it and my ideas don't matter. You know, whatever that is, you have a physical, emotional, mental feeling about it. And I think that's the first place that you know there's an issue. And after that, you know, look, this is what I always say. And people say, a bad process is better than no process. You've got to get educated and trained. That's why I love what you're doing, right? Learn what are the 5 things you can do when someone says, you know, how to assert yourself, do some assertive training, whatever it takes. What I had to do was go to EAP. I found myself in EAP, the Employee Assistant Program. And she was like, what would you tell your best friend? I'm like, well, I'll tell my best friend to tell them that if you want me to keep working here, you got to respect my boundaries. And I don't appreciate you speaking to me that way, asking me to do too much, you know, whatever it was. And I finally spoke up for myself like I would have told my best friend.
And sometimes it's the simplest suggestion that makes the most sense. Like, why would it be any different than doing that? Right. Kelly, what kind of experiences have you had in that corporate America space where setting boundaries was a must?
When I first, so I've been in automotive my entire career.
Okay.
And so Kim, you probably already seen and heard it all. And so when I was moving positions at my company, and I ended up getting a new manager, and this guy would just talk to people like a person, like just a random Joe Schmo on the streets. And so I remember we were in a meeting and the guy next to us didn't make a particular deliverable. And he just started like laying into him. I was like, well, I don't just call your wife and this and that. And I'm like, and I'm super uncomfortable. I'm like, why am I here for this? And so later on, I was having a different conversation with someone in the hallway, and the director was like, oh, I'm going to give you your first lead program. And I was like, I don't know, you know, interacting with the customer. And this, my other coworker happened to be walking by. He was my direct manager at the time. And so he was like, oh, well, you can just hang out with me, you know, because I'll talk to you and be a jerk and this and that and the other. I said, well, let me just stop you right there. I said, that doesn't work with me because I am very cognizant of how I talk to people. So I want to be treated the same way. I get triggered if you start talking to me sideways. I'm in corporate America. To Kim's point, I'm not trying to catch a case, but I'm not going to let you walk all over me. And so I let him know. I was like, that approach won't work with me. You get more bees with honey than you do with vinegar. And it like caught him off guard because I don't think anyone up to that point had ever said their piece to him. And when I tell you, he and I had a phenomenal working relationship after that, I was like, because I'm just like, no, like it was beyond uncomfortable. And I'm like, if you think you're going to talk to me like that, sir, I go back to where I came from.
But that goes to the beauty of boundaries, right? And it's the same thing in personal relationships and friendships and even in family. We have to teach people how to treat us. Yes. Because I'm going to run through this doing what I've always done until someone says something different. So bravo for you for standing up for that. And I don't know, I think we as Black women always have to make sure that we are standing up and setting those boundaries again in corporate America to make sure that those sort of things, the advances, the that aren't coming our way. Kim, how does someone sitting here listening to this or going to watch this on a replay, Kim, and they're feeling really uneasy about something, you know, happening, and there needs to be, and let's refrain from any of the sexual overtures or whatever. This is just strictly, right? Some advice, some steps. How do they, do they have to practice it? Am I standing in the mirror? Like, what are those things that they're going to do? You mentioned, which I think is huge, when it doesn't feel right. And sometimes fear of losing this job, of losing this position, of whatever the consequences that we think may happen will keep us from doing that. What should we be doing anyway?
And I think, and I want to back up and share that, Crystal, because I think that one of the things that I'm most fascinated about, when you called me, I was totally, not because I was like, oh, I have answers. I'm like, oh, I'm so deep into studying this right now, like especially in school. And what I'm really looking at is they say balance isn't the key to burnout. The new balance is boundaries. So I just wanted to say that, because one of the things that I've really been looking at. And so that's why I say that mindfulness is there. So just putting that on the sort of the parking lot for a minute, I think you flip it, because like when I talk to executives, I'm an executive coach. I talk to people and I say, when someone's done something, you can use something that's from the book, Crucial Conversations. And they say you can use the CPR method. And you probably heard that, both of you. And so CPR is, first, if somebody violates, it's like the context. Let me just remind you what you did, right? And then the P is there's a pattern that's going on that I'm noticing. And then the R is this is impacting our relationship, like I can't trust you. And just spontaneously responding, I think that is a scientifically proven way to communicate to someone when you have to communicate a crucial conversation. So I would go that approach. The other thing that they say about boundaries, though, is to use that I word, like, I feel this way when you do that. Like, we learn that as well. And lastly, I think rehearsing it, maybe not with someone in the workplace, because that can create some gossip, you know what I mean? But I would say, well, it depends. If you wanted to talk to your manager because you needed to go talk to someone that was doing it, that's different. But a trusted friend, I'm going to rehearse this and do my CPR. It's a pattern. They keep on doing it. And I want to make sure that it isn't. And then make a new agreement. I would just like, from going forward, when you give me a last minute project, it makes I feel uncomfortable and doesn't give me the time to do what I need to do. And it adds stress on me and my family, when I get home and I can't do what I do. And then when I let you down, then you berate me. Like, it doesn't work. And I know you're passionate about it. And whenever you're having a crucial conversation, you use mutual purpose, mutual respect. Look, we both want to get this done. I know it's important to you. I can see your passion. At the same time, I need you to respect mine. And I admit I've let you do this 3 times. That's on me. Line in the sand. Can we agree to do that? And last but not least, if I see you cross that boundary, what's the way that I can put the white flag up so that we can not let this get to that? My favorite term is this is a 411, so it doesn't become a 911. Like that. I like that. And one of the things that they say about boundaries as well is, and then you have to know when it's too much for you. That, you would have to walk away because it's not enough. Because ladies, we all know, if you give the ultimatum or whatever, we have to also know when we'll walk away. And what I was going to say last thing, Crystal, is what I'm so fascinated about studying is how they say that a shock event will cause it to be worse for your boundaries. And like the pandemic caused us to start working too much because we were all working on our phones from work, in the offices. So when you said that, a shock event for me was I had lost a lot in the recession. My mom had passed away. Then I moved to New York. So I needed this job for the first time ever in a strange land. You know what I mean? So I didn't feel balanced. So it was like a shock event of moving somewhere like that put me in a vulnerable situation that I'm not normally in.
So Evangeline asked a really good question. Why do people get offended when a person sets boundaries? Come on, Kim. I know you know
the way they do it and say it, because we don't use the process for communication. We do it from our emotions, and then we can make it worse. I think that's one of the reasons. I mean, we get all like, instead of, I gave a very professional way to establish my boundaries. And I'm a catch a case person back in the day. So if I can, that's why you need a process. Everybody's watching and knows and go, yep, she did used to be too. And so, no, you want to be professional about it, even if it's with your friends and family. What do you think, Kelly?
I also think it could be that this person isn't used to someone setting boundaries with them, and they're used to just behaving however they want, all willy-nilly. And then the minute you want to hold them accountable for their actions and try to draw the line in the sand, it's to them, like you said, that may be their shock event, you know. So I think definitely what you said, how it's communicated, but then just the fact that, you know, they're not used to being told no, or, you know, yeah, things like that.
And you waited too long. They're not used to it. You've been like my dad said, you lay down like a mat, you get walked on. This is the normal routine that we have.
Right. And now they hit you with, well, you acting brand new. I don't know if the kids say that anymore. But it's like, then they want to, you know, basically put it on you like you're doing something wrong when you finally just got the courage to stand up for yourself. So, yeah.
So Kelly, you said something about accountability, right? Mm-hmm. And I really like that, because we have to hold people accountable for how they interact with us. But also we have to hold ourselves accountable for how we interact with other people. Meaning, like Kim, you just said, you know, you lay down on a mat, you get walked all over. So part of that accountability for us is standing up for us, for ourselves, right? In any of these spaces, and making room. How do you, we know being a Black woman in corporate America is really, really interesting in the first place, right? How do you, and we have these, we've all seen the managers who, they have these positions, they are not necessarily the most qualified, or they may be qualified because they know the work, but they're not real good at handling people, if you will, right? Which is where a lot of those type comments, and you talking to me like I'm crazy, because those people skills are lacking, right? And you've now addressed them. We don't want to catch a case. What are those? And I have not been in corporate America in a few years, but what's the recourse? You've done the thing, you've said the thing, right? You tried to set the boundaries. It doesn't happen. What are the next steps for you inside of corporate America, but you on the personal side as well? Because for me, it's like, deuces, I'm out. I'm not doing this. Everybody can't just walk away from that paycheck because they have other responsibilities. Like, what is that next step? What happens after that?
So for me, and Kim, if you don't mind, I would like to go first. I've actually been fortunate in, at least up to this point in my career, where when I set those boundaries, they haven't been played with too much, or even at all. And I think it's because sometimes I do, and for me, I don't know why it's weirder in a corporate America sense. Yes, I need my job, but I'm also confident in what I bring to the table. So I've gotten to the point where I'm very comfortable speaking up about what I need. And so an example, I have a team of 15 people. And so one of my employees sent the email asking someone to stop doing something. Someone else replied back and was like, shade all through and through. So that rubbed me the wrong way, because I'm a big person of, I'm going to treat you with respect. We have to see each other every day. Like, I don't let other people talk to us sideways. I'm not about to let us do this to ourselves. And so we had a small meeting, and then right there at the end, I just addressed it. I said, and oh, by the way, I said, I understand we're all busy. It's a lot of moving parts. We're moving this, we're moving that. I said, however, just because someone sends an email asking a question, I said, there's no reason to reply back with all the snark and sarcasm that was in that email. I said, I'm not going to tolerate the disrespect. I said, I don't talk to you like that. I'm not going to allow you to talk to your teammates like that. So hopefully the person who initially sent that email caught on that message was directly to them. I didn't want to necessarily call them out, especially since they made the email in a public statement, our entire team was on it. So I wanted to address it back in that same public manner. If that behavior continues, then I'll try having a one-on-one. And then personally for me, if someone were to continuously violate my boundaries, I'm going to start bringing someone with me when I have to interact with that person. And then if they continue the behavior, then I'm going to go to HR and just escalate it through the proper channels.
Yeah, I think addressing it immediately is really, really important. Because when you don't, you let it linger, and other people then think that, oh, this is how we're now operating. And you said, how do we operate as a team? It's hard enough being in a place, doing a thing, doing a job, with people putting more and more responsibilities on you, less pay. We have to be able to support one another. That's really, really huge. And and everybody feels the pressure and all of that. But in order to operate as a team, we have to be very, very diligent in making sure we're uplifting and not tearing one another down.
Right.
Did you?
Yeah, no, I agree with Kelly. I think that I don't see very often when someone has a conversation with someone that's crossing their boundaries, be it verbal or too much work or, disrespect. However, one of the, experts say for boundaries is really to really focus on what you can change and not them. So for the most part, you're going to change your behavior. I'm not going to respond when you speak to me that way. You have to keep saying it. Just don't. I'm not going to be the one to take the project that's going to keep me going till 2 a.m. I'm just not. You know what I mean? So you can draw that line and not quit your job. I mean, if you then get put on a PIP because of it, that's a different thing, performance improvement plan. But I think you can draw that line. And I didn't even mean, and when it happened to me, it was in a smaller business. I mean, it's still corporate work. But, Crystal, and I'll say this very gently, my clients cross boundaries, wanting me to do too much or not being clear. And I work with all CEOs. I'm like, wait, you went MIA in the middle of the project. Where are you? You know what I mean? So different things happen. So it doesn't have to be because you work for someone or with someone. You could be a solopreneur and still have it. But I think changing yourself has everything around you change. So that would be my advice. I'm not telling nobody to quit the job. I'm saying go change.
Absolutely. Right.
Right.
Like Kim and Crystal said on the show.
In the world. Right. Yeah. The paraphrasing of Mahatma Gandhi. Yeah.
So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about personal and family relationships and setting those boundaries, which sometimes can be harder than setting the boundaries, right? Through your job. Kelly, you mentioned you mentioned when you said to your friends, hey, I'm tired. I really don't even want to, I can't do this. And it was like everyone else just was like, well, yeah, because I'm probably tired too. I'm always the one that says, never feel bad about canceling plans with me. Like, I'm so okay with you canceling plans with me because I can climb right back into bed and pick up my laptop and continue to do some work. Why is it hard to set boundaries with family and friends?
I think because you don't want to disappoint them. You don't want to let them down. At least for me, that's usually why I go, end up inconveniencing myself, which I know that sounds kind of harsh, but, because it's like, oh, they were counting on me and I already made the plans and, it'll be good once I get there. And then always just, thinking about other people's feelings first. And I'm, I love my peoples, but if I'm tired, I'm not about to do it no more.
Yeah. I had actually it was Michelle's niece who in her 30s, and this was a couple years ago. And we were having this conversation, this topic of discussion with the other nieces in the room. And one thing that she did, and we both had to commend her, because she said for 30 days, she told no to everybody because she was someone who wouldn't do it. If somebody asked her something, she was going to do it, even if she was tired, even if she, you know what I mean? All of the things, she still would say yes, and she would do the things. And, her own words, that people pleaser thing, doing it. And so she made a decision, and she says, for 30 days, I'm saying no to everything. And she said it didn't matter whether it was something that she really wanted to do, a thing that she really wanted to attend. Oh, I really want to go with them to the, you know what I mean? She still said no. But on the end of that, it gave her her voice and her power to say no when she wanted to say no, and yes when she wanted to say yes. And I think we have to practice and always try to find our power and our voice to speak up, to say no, without the guilt, because, it's cliche and you hear people say, oh no, it's a full statement. But to say no, to mean it, and to not feel the guilt afterwards is really huge. How do you start to massage and work that muscle? Right. That was one way. She said, I'm just saying no to everything. But how do you start to massage that muscle in order to get your voice?
Right. They say that guilt, that feeling of guilt, and that's the part that I can't relate. I'm not gonna say I don't relate to. For some reason, like my best friends are like, oh my gosh, I tell my sister no and I feel so much guilt. And I'm like, what does that feel like to feel that guilt like that? And I'm not being, I'm not cold or anything like that. You know what I mean? I've had best friends since second grade. You know what I mean? I have sisters and brothers and nieces and nephews. But so I had to I went, Crystal, and got the information from you because I can't relate to that at all. But psychology today, okay? I had to get it on my way in. And look, I'm going to give a real life example. Crystal called and said, hey, be on the podcast, right? I have a paper due, a final due, right? And all kind of stuff going on, right? However, and I normally don't do anything on Sundays. It's my Sabbath day, right? And it was so interesting. I'm like, am I crossing my boundaries while I'm talking about boundaries? And I was literally trying to figure it out, right? But two things. Number one, it is to assess and be very clear of your priorities. And this hit on the priority of me being purpose-driven. It hit on a priority of me, like you can read about it in school, or you can actually apply it and talk to women about what I'm in the middle of studying. And I adore Crystal, right? So, but I'm saying that you can do a decision matrix very logically.
Ooh, I like that.
Assess if my yes means yes, or am I saying yes, and then I'm going to be uncomfortable about it, right? And if I would have said no, I don't think I would have felt guilty. But here's the deal. Psychology Today, 6 ways to set boundaries without guilt. Would I tell a friend that it's wrong to tell someone no, or tell them not to talk to me that way, or call me at 2 a.m, or always talk about their man problems when you're going back, whatever that is, right? Mm-hmm. Is my guilt based on unrealistic expectations of myself? Does feeling guilty about XYZ help me be healthy and happy? Can I tolerate someone being displeased with me if I'm doing what's best for me? So once again, it's about having a tool to use. Like I use a decision matrix, literally, Crystal, decision matrix. My best friend was like, girl, you better go be amazing. You better go do it. And so like, I want my yes to be yes. I want my no to be no. And I don't want to have to spend a whole lot of energy, because remember, I'm connecting the dots between burnout. So if I'm going to tell you no and then ruminate over it nonstop, I might as well have said yes and did it. It would be easier on my soul.
Yeah. True. Absolutely. And I love that decision what did you call it? Matrix.
Yeah.
Process. And I think in this thing, it's very, very important to, and you said it, you're studying for, finals and all of the things. And it's like, that goes back to, I think, the self-love and the self-respect. Setting boundaries falls into that, right? Do I love me enough to say no to a thing, no matter what the outcome is? Because sometimes you're going to say no. You mentioned it, Kim, I can't control how somebody responds to my no. But I also believe how they respond to my no really isn't my business. Right?
Yeah.
And because we talk about that friend thing a lot on this show, somebody is truly your friend, or they truly care about you, they truly love you, be it family member or whatever. If you say no, hey, shouldn't that be enough?
But you know what? Let me play angel's advocate. I never say devil's advocate.
Right.
I say angel. The reason why I say you have to be very strategic about it is, if I'm the one saying no all the time, but you're the one that says yes to me all the time, and my boundaries are so high and I say no, I've got to be strategic enough to go, I'm just using this as an example, but I'm going to say no to Crystal. Why would I say that? There's been times I said, hey, Crystal, you're like, girl, I got you. We also have to be strategic about, am I saying no to someone who always says yes to me, and what will the impact be long-term? I do think there's some strategic thinking.
For sure.
That's why I say it's a decision matrix. But if it's girl, let me tell you, I remember I had this friend, God rest her soul. She's not even alive anymore, I hate to say, but she would ask things that I would never have ever asked. Like I could never, like, you know what I mean? Can I borrow $1 million? Will you drive my kid to school every day? You know, whatever it is. And I remember my father saying, like, you could never yes her, Eve. You could never do for her what she's asking for you. Draw some boundaries. Like that does not work. So there also some people we know that ask so much. Like it's not even just about going and hanging out with them. Like they ask so much of you. Mm-hmm. Like, can you co-sign? Can you this? Like, no. I know you.
And no is all just no's always the answer for that.
Yes.
Okay. No is always the answer, people, for co-signing for anybody. No. Yes. But I'm sorry. You know, that was finance for me.
I know I had to get you. But you know what I'm saying? So there's other things that, and I want to put this on a parking lot too. Maybe this is for part 2, or maybe it's too sensitive of a subject right now. But the real thing, I just did a micro masterclass on this topic of political burnout. And the thing that's really going on right now are people trying to navigate with family and friends conversations that are making them uncomfortable about what's going on in the news. And that's a very hard boundary to set, you know, to be able to say, well, how do we agree to disagree, or whatever the case is with that. And that's real at the dinner table. And you know,
it really is, because I see the comments of people saying, well, just unfriend me, you know, if they don't feel the same way that you do about something politically, or, you know, it's just, it's a very, very interesting climate right now. I think, you know, those powers that be always want the division anyway, and this just further winds up being that, and we let them win when we, you know, I think that's one of those conversations where we also need to be able to read the room, right? If you're saying certain things to me and I'm not responding, maybe I don't want to have the conversation. Maybe I don't agree with what you know, your thought. And this is really with anything, and don't agree with what, you know, your views are. That maybe you slow down and you push back and you say, maybe I shouldn't have this conversation. Because it can be a hot button and it can destroy relationships. And at the end of the relationship is destroyed, and all of the stuff that's still happening politically is still going to happen politically. And now you've destroyed, you know, this really good relationship because you all had different views. I think it's really, really hard. We've become this society where I'm right and you're wrong, and that's it.
There's no more gray area.
There's no more gray area. And social media has made it even stronger with that, because it's this way, it's this way, it's this way. And if you don't see it this way, then you're absolutely wrong, and they're not interested in seeing anything else. And life, unfortunately, just isn't black and white like that.
There's no curiosity, and I want to know what makes you think the way that you think and why you think the way that you. There's no patience for the conversation to listen to that curiosity.
No. And one thing I have one-on-ones with my team members, and like there's one guy, he is, you know, he voted for the current administration, and like he and I have talked about it, and I was like, nope, that's not my guy, wasn't on my radar. And you know, he said his piece, and he's also had family members who, you know, took that hardcore stance of, you know, this is who you voted for, just unfriend me. And he was actually really bothered by it, because this particular family member, you know, him and his wife gone out of their way multiple times to help this person. And all of a sudden now, because they disagree on the administration, they don't even want to associate. Whereas he and I were talking about it, we laugh, we joke, and it's just like, you feel your way, I feel mine, nobody's forcing it. And I wonder too, with people and their ability to accept boundaries, how much is that related to their emotional intelligence? So maybe it's them still needing to do work on themselves to be able to, you know, have those curious conversations. And to my initial point, like I have some team members where English isn't their first language. And so I'm always curious. I'm like, okay, so when you dream, I'm like, do you dream in like your native language, or, you know,
curiosity,
like I ask those curious questions because I want to know, you know, it's like, I want to work smarter, not harder. So if I can find out what your strengths are, I can rely on them. I can let other people know how, you know, who they can help it to more or less exploit those talents.
But everything comes back to self. You might, like, I believe everything comes back to self. if you can say something, and I've mentioned this before on the show, like if somebody says something, and I don't care what the topic, the conversation, I don't care what it is. If someone says something to trigger you, right? And I'm not talking about the boundaries. I'm just, if someone says something to trigger you, I think you have to ask yourself, why are you triggered?
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there is no need for me to ask myself, why am I triggered when somebody talks to me like they crazy? Like that's just total disrespect. You know what I'm saying? That's not something that I need to heal from. That's something that you need to figure out how to do differently. But those other things, it's like, why am I triggered? And what I found when I started to do that is 9 times out of 10, I never had to go back to have that conversation with the other person, because it was something still inside of me that I had not healed from. Right. And so when we talk about having conversations that where we differ, somebody can say to you, well, no, I don't even want to associate with you anymore. Like, that to me comes from a different place that has nothing to do with the topic. And again, this is just in my opinion, because where was the relationship before? Did we agree on everything before? We can't disagree here and still, I don't know, have some love.
It still kind of goes with I'm going to go back to the crucial conversation theory, because it says if you have something that you need to say to someone and you keep stuffing it, it can literally make you sick or ill. And so you could be triggered. I love it. It all fits together because it's with the emotional intelligence and stepping on hot buttons and how do I manage? And that really is what it comes down to, right, Kelly, about the boundaries. Like, how do I know myself, know when my boundaries are being crossed and when I need to say something. But if you don't, I remember when I was having a conversation with a white male, and he said, it was around the George Floyd time, you know what I mean? And I remember I said, oh, I'm so glad that's not, and it was a daughter on the front lawn. I don't know if you all remember that scene, but the front lawn of this suburb was being held down by the police. And I remember saying, like, oh my gosh, that could have been my daughter. I'm so glad that that's not going on. And he said to me, oh, that would never be your daughter, because you would never raise your daughter that way. And I'm like, you don't know us and where we come from. We come from Detroit. I mean,
yeah.
Like, you don't like, why are you and doing this to us? But the reason why, for a very long time, and I did unfriend him eventually, Crystal. So I actually can say that it does reach a certain level.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was a former client, this whole thing, but then, and we both would say, well, I'm so glad that we can have these conversations. I said, let me explain to you why it triggers me and why that wasn't true for me. And you were saying a blanket statement that you assume about me and not assuming that I'm like other Black people, et cetera, but I was able to communicate it. So when it comes to the point where someone is stepping on your hot buttons and you feel like you can't communicate it, although that's still more about you, it's unhealthy for you. So at that point, we probably may need to, and experts say we need to sever the relationship if your boundaries are continuing to be crossed in whatever situation, I think.
So we've talked about boundaries in corporate America. We talked about boundaries a little bit with friends and family. What about the boundaries that we need to set for ourselves?
Ma'am, I'm a work in progress, so I'm taking notes. Yeah.
So what do they look like? Why do we need them? How do we start to set them?
Look, we're all quiet.
I know, right?
I'm definitely deferring to Kim, because I'm like, I'm still learning. Like, I don't know. I think the thing for me is just I need to set the boundary of not taking on too much. Be it here in the household with the chores and the family, and then extending that out to, wanting to see friends. And so that's something I have to continually work on. And, some days and weeks I am successful, and other days I run myself into the ground and I'm like, why did I do that? And sometimes I'm like, well, it was fun. It was kind of worth it. And other days I'm just like, yeah, no, you should have made a different decision, ma'am. So yeah, I'm open to take some notes, ladies, because I'm a work in progress on that one.
I feel like I should have something profound. This is more of a confessional. And you know what? I love to keep it real things. First, I'll keep it real. Then we go to Crystal. If you want me to come up with something profound, I'll find it. Keep it real. I literally have 25 pounds to lose again. You know, I had lost it a bit ago and was in great shape. And I had just declared I'm going on my diet. Then my pastor, church, said, we're going on a fast today. I was like, I'm on fast. Then I had 2 reasons. And me and my daughter just got through with our Maggiano's lasagna that I just had. Like totally, I mean, in 5 seconds. I did not have my own boundaries with my diet that I set, right? I mean, yeah, that's what I'm just going to say right now, Crystal, unless you have something profound. I'll come back in a second. But.
Is it, Kelly, you talked about doing all of the things, right? Is that Black woman superhero thing?
Yes. Yep. 100%. And then 2, it's easier if I just do it myself. So then a bit of stubbornness, where it's like, I done asked y'all know what y'all need to do around here. Okay, so y'all not gonna clean your bathroom? All right, I'm gonna do it. Or the one thing, at least in that regards, like when it comes to like the teenagers and their chores, I told them, I said, I'm gonna give y'all the same energy you give me. So you don't do chores, you don't help out, don't ask for nothing extra. So it's very new, like less than 30 days. So and so far so good.
This is a new test.
Just the new one. But now it's to the point where it's like, we're going to work together. We live in this house. We're all going to do our part. And then if not, there will be consequences for violating those boundaries. It'll be like, oh, you wanted to go hang out with a friend. You do your chores, then you haven't earned the right to go outside of this house.
Yeah. So I believe setting boundaries, part of that is that self-care for ourselves and mental wellness, though, right? Not having those boundaries for yourself, and then like you said, well, then I'm just going to do it myself. But
right,
sometimes there's the resentment that comes because the other person didn't do the thing, and they're sitting there glad that they didn't have to do the thing, and you over here stressed out, and that stress turns into some sort of illness, and the repercussions are on you, and they still didn't do the thing. So the mental wellness that goes with setting the boundaries, I think is really, really high and important. Yeah. And that we fast and don't eat the lasagna.
Right. And I said, I'll start again tomorrow. But I think part of it is even having boundaries with forgiving ourselves when we don't do it the way that we need to do it. I'll give them more profound life. I'll life coach myself at the same time. And I mean, Crystal knows I have a book, The 14-Day Experiment. And the whole philosophy is when you set a goal and you don't meet it, that is a learning opportunity. So all that told me is, look, I got to draw the line in the sand. I will not, move the computer so I can't order the Maggiano's next time. Just what do I learn from this experience? What do I learn from that, Kelly? Right. That I, we can even hear it in Kelly's voice. No, it's fine. That's all right. You know what I mean? Right. That stuff is there. And so it's just a learning opportunity. Like, don't give up on ourselves. And, I know that I'll set my goal and achieve the goal eventually after I go through this learning curve. But we know we have to put our own oxygen mask on first.
Yes.
And we say it. Over and over again, and yet we still put someone's oxygen mask on first. And that's why I said everything, I think, goes back to self, because that's the thing that you can control. Put your own damn oxygen mask.
You know what?
First.
Maybe sometimes, I hate to say it, but sometimes self isn't enough. Like I said, I chose to come on here today. It wasn't really for self. It was for the bigger purpose. You know what I mean? So sometimes if we can find even a bigger purpose, I mean, I'll just play life coach unsolicited, Kelly. You're role modeling for your teenagers. Yeah, you're role modeling for them. So if you do that, then they'll do that. You know what I mean? So a bigger cause could be to really role model what it looks like to set the boundaries. And then I'm doing it for that reason. I shouldn't have ate the Maggiano's to role model me and my daughter doing it. Look, I'm whispering so she's gonna hear me. So like sometimes I hate to say it, but sometimes we're so selfless, even doing it for ourselves isn't enough, obviously. So how about we even get a higher, that's why I was like, yay, a fast. That's going to actually help me to do this time, because I can connect with a higher purpose, higher reason.
Accountability.
And go above yourself and find a reason.
I like that. Go above yourself. And
I like that too. And And that's the one thing my husband and I both, with raising, two young, Black future young adults, is just trying to make sure we model that good behavior and setting boundaries. So that way, when they get out into the world, when they're not under our roof anymore, they don't let people take advantage of them, so. Because everybody would be quick to be like, oh, but I love you. And so I don't really mean it when, I call you at 3 a.m. because I'm on Taco Bell and don't give you gas money, but I love you. And it's like, yeah, no, love, that's not how love should work. And so we try to, to your comment earlier, Kim, about being mindful, it's something we actively strive to do.
And I'm glad that you just said mindful, because I think it's everyone should strive to be more mindful of others as well.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That's like really, really huge, because if you stop and you think about it, and you're actually thinking about someone else, it doesn't mean that you don't tell them no, but just being mindful of what other people are dealing with, going through, that they're not talking about.
Yeah. And maybe even it's not a no, maybe it's a I can't do it right now. And so that was one question I wanted to ask both of you ladies is, when is it okay for us to be flexible with our boundaries? Is there ever a time to be flexible with our boundaries?
I'm not good at that, so I'm gonna let Kim answer.
It goes back to what we were saying. I think quickly, strategically, you have to look and assess. You know what I mean? Like, this is this new manager. They don't know what they're doing. They are in a last minute crunch. I'll let it go this time. You know what I mean? But I'm still going to say, you know what? I want to be a team player. Twice you've asked me to do this late. I'm going to do it this time. But then we need to go in the conference room, figure this out so that we can do X, Y, Z. I know you don't like scrubbing the bathroom. I know you got a party. This time I'm going to let it go. Go on and put your little skirt on. But next week, we're going to talk about it, because there are times and teachable moments. So I don't think we have to be, Crystal opened it with it. These are not rules.
Yeah.
This is the give and take and the play of the line in the sand, so to speak, because it can wash away and you can put another one. So it makes me want to say yes more. I'll go out. They used to always be like, I know you're not going to go, but I like to be asked. I need to go out.
Y'all never asked me to go anywhere because you always say no.
It's right. But you do. I want to be asked, but I know if you tell me it's like after 8 o'clock, I'm not going.
I love it. Fastest hour of your day. Kelly, how can people get in touch with you?
I am on LinkedIn, Kelly Jackson, and then my email address is kemack83@yahoo.com.
Nice.
Miss Kim, how can people get in touch with you? How can they get in touch with you? How can they work with you? All of those things.
Beautiful. I am also on LinkedIn, Kim Bettie. You can reach me. Probably my website's the easiest way, greateradvantage.com. I have an app now out that is available. So that's the most exciting way for me to chat, coach people in an affordable way. And then I'm on social media at Coach Kim Bettie.
Thank you, ladies, for transparency. Thank you, Kim, for the coaching sessions.
Yes, thank you.
Look, thank you for putting down studying for a minute to come on here and do this. I truly appreciate it. I appreciate you guys' honesty, transparency, and all of the nuggets. We did have quite a few people commenting. Judy even said leading by example goes a long way as well. And I think it does, because people will model your behavior in this process. Kelly, any parting words, something that you want to leave our listeners with?
I would just like to say, and I think Kim said something similar to it earlier, is just be gentle with yourselves. That self-forgiveness, we're quick to offer it to others. I'm saying this to myself as much as I'm saying it to you ladies and those that are watching, but just remember to be gentle with yourself. You are a work in progress, and tomorrow is always a brand new day. And thank you for having me, Crystal. This has been great. Kim, it has been wonderful meeting you. I'm loving everybody's glasses. So thank you. It's been a blast.
Kim.
Yes, I think that my takeaway, even though I said it, but I was coaching my own self, is,
Right.
sometimes we can't do it for ourselves, but we can do it for all the amazing women.
Mhm.
And so when I'm thinking about being the role model, when I'm thinking about setting those boundaries, when I'm thinking about saying yes and no, I can think like, if all the amazing women were watching, what would I want to do and be, for all of us, and then be gentle with myself when I don't live up to it. That's what I definitely think.
I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it. On this show, we often talk about journaling as a tool and how powerful it is. And so if you haven't joined us for our journaling campaign, Amazing Reflections for Her, and Her stands for Heal, Empower, and Rise, you can start this Monday. Because every Monday we share a thought-provoking journaling prompt on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok to help you release past wounds and embrace healing, step into your confidence and power, build a legacy of success and impact. This will also help you set some boundaries, right? And so it's more than a journaling campaign. It is a movement for transformation, encouraging every Black woman to own, honor, and execute her amazing individually and collectively as it was established at birth. I hope you join in. Thank you all for joining us this evening. I am Crystal L. Gunn. I am a Black woman and I own my amazing unapologetically. Miss Kelly?
My name is Kelly Jackson. I am a Black woman and I own my amazing, being a work in progress.
Kim?
My name is Bettie. I'm a Black woman and I own my amazing, and I will be modeling that with other Black women. So
absolutely. I love that. Thank you guys again for joining us. You both are truly amazing Black women. Thank you everybody for watching. Thank you for the newcomers, and thank you for those who tune in each and every discussion. We love and appreciate you. Have a fantastic night and a wonderful week, and we will see you next Sunday.